Hey, this is Nat, and we're off our couch halfway between Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida. That's 82 miles south of Savannah and 75 miles north of Jacksonville, visiting the beautiful historic St. Simon's Island, Georgia, a barrier island within the Golden Isles located off the coast of Georgia, and we are at Fort Frederica National Monument here in St. Simon's Island. Fort Frederica is part of the National Park Service, and the land is protected due to the fact that once, during the years of 1736 to 1758, a town existed here, Frederica, supported by a fort that was built to defend against a Spanish attempt to regain the land of Georgia that they once claimed. In this video, we will walk the streets of the town that once existed, and with some imagination and a number of valuable resources, we will encounter what life was like for the residents of Frederica and learn about the artifacts and ruins that were left behind. There is no admission fee for Fort Frederica National Monument. This is an archaeological site, so there are not a lot of physical buildings here. There are ruins here and signs outside showing what had been. So it is essential, I feel, to walk through this visitor center to have an idea of what we will be seeing once we walk the grounds, because there's actually more to this park than just the town of Frederica and the fort. Now, within this visitor center, we are learning more about the Gullah Geechee people, the descendants of Africans who were enslaved on isolated plantations, often on sea and barrier islands, which allowed them to keep many of their African traditions. I have seen and read a lot about the Gullah Geechee people in South Carolina. I have recently learned, though, that the Gullah Geechee have traditionally lived from St. Johns County, Florida, that's North Florida, to southern North Carolina. More history, Black history too. Robert Abbott, founder of the Chicago Defender, the largest Black-owned daily newspaper, placed a monument here, which you will see soon, in memory of his aunt and father. This is significant since Black history was mostly ignored during that time. The Visitor Center includes information about the island in general, as well as examples of artifacts that have been found during archaeological digs within this park. They are on display. We meet James Oglethorpe, the founder of Frederica, the founder of Georgia within the Visitor Center, and we learn about his military quest and his mission to maintain and expand British control. And this back area has so much detail concerning the town of Frederica, how it operated, the design, the residents, information that we can and will refer back to once we start to walk the long-gone streets of this town. Just a warning, so you hopefully don't make the same mistake as we did. We thought, oh, these are ruins. It only take an hour to walk around. But honestly, we spent nearly an hour just in the gift shop here, since there is Black history, Native American history, colonial history, military history, a lot of history. That's what I'm saying. That's a lot to look at. So there are a variety of items to browse and shop that relate to this park. Plus, I highly recommend allotting more than ample time to scour the informational displays within this visitor center. And in addition, there is a film of the history of the park. And of course, the actual grounds, which we will finally check out now. And for the first time, my kids have the National Park Junior Ranger Adventure book. Surprisingly, we've never done this at a national park before. And once the kids get through this book, they will earn a pen. So this will serve as another informational resource as we explore this park. Okay, so we have made it outside now. We're starting our exploration, and from this sign we are learning that the information gathered about these huts comes from a journal drawing from someone who visited the settlement in 1736. It does say in exchange for risking their lives, the soldiers, they had to manage with tough housing, very little pay, and had to grow their own food. Speaking of growing their own food, we are approaching a garden with a sign that's saying a woman's work was never done. Ain't that the truth? The soldiers weren't the only ones having it rough. The women tended the garden, cooked meals, made medicinal concoctions, preserved food, and still had to work alongside their husbands, still performed the roles of seamstress, caregiver, and housekeeper as well. A quick detour, we're going to have a change in direction and a change in the history that we're discussing. Remember, we talked about in the visitor center, we talked about Robert Abbott, the founder of the newspaper, the Chicago Defender, which eventually became the most influential black newspaper in America and spearheaded the Great Migration, which was a movement encouraging over 1 million rural Southern African Americans to move north by promoting better jobs and housing opportunities. Mr. Abbott erected this monument here in honor of his father and aunt to cement his family legacy. So now, shifting back to Frederica, back to colonial history, we shall make our way down Broad Street now. The sign says imagine. Yes, we have to imagine. And if you walk this park with your imagination fully open, I think you'll enjoy your walk on these extinct streets even more. This, now imaginary street, was Broad Street, Frederica's main avenue. The street was designed to handle people, animals, and large carts. So my son is saying, since we're walking in the middle of the street, if this was way back when, we'd probably be dodging a cart or horse about now. On Broad Street, the houses were mostly the same size, 60 by 90 feet. There was a lot for building, plus 50 acres given for gardening to each family that resided in Frederica. Imagine orange trees shading the road, and if your imagination needs a jump start, here you go. A layout of the town from our Fort Frederica National Monument pamphlet. These sites where these houses and businesses once stood are archaeological research sites now. So we have seen and will continue to see items that have been found here. Broad Street runs to the fort, so that is where we are approaching. And the closer we get to the fort, the more wealth or status the residents had. Residents with more wealth built houses of brick and tabby, while less wealthy residents would own wood houses or huts. We were curious to see James Oglethorpe's residence, but unfortunately that was actually closed off to visitors during our visit. But James Oglethorpe did have a vision to create an equal society, so that affected the layout of this town. Speaking of layout, we have hit a crossroad. Cross Street ran north-south, connecting the south and north wards. But we will go ahead and cross back to Broad Street, looking both ways, of course, before crossing the street. Still making our way to the fort. On Broad Street, there were both residences and businesses. This is where the candle maker stayed, and this house was considered the best in town with a baking oven and not one but 2 fireplaces. At least one of the taverns was located on Broad Street, according to our map. The tavern sold only wine and beer. Hard liquor was not allowed in this town. On an unrelated note, neither was slavery. We are almost at the fort, but from a distance I see an alley sign. Oh wow, my imagination is running wild. I'm going to keep running, catching up with London and my daughter, who are already at the fort. This is a tabby fort. Tabby, that is the mixture of burnt oyster shells, sand, and water. And in its heyday, this fort was square with bastions on each corner and separated from the town of Frederica with a palisade and moat. Inside was a magazine for guns, an officers' quarters, storehouses, and a forge. And there was at one time a mounted 6 or 7 cannon. According to the sign, basically this is the King's magazine that's remaining where the gunpowder was kept. What we see now is quite different than our visual on the Park Service brochure of what it was back then. Still though, we're appreciating what we see now that's remaining of the fort, and most definitely the view of this river. The view from here of the Frederica River, absolutely beautiful. We have heard about James Oglethorpe before. Fort Matanzas National Monument in St. Augustine, Florida, tells the story of Oglethorpe attempting to blockade the then Spanish city of St. Augustine, Florida, and failing. And that video is in the description if you want to check out our experience there at Fort Matanzas National Monument in St. Augustine, Florida. It's interesting now to learn more about Oglethorpe, though, and his other endeavors. One last ruin to see, and that is of the Barracks, also made of tabby. And comparing the picture of what the barracks may have looked like to what's facing us, there's not much left here at all. With this structure being so open though, it's a really great example, a great way to actually see the tabby, the construction material that was so popular in the southeastern United States by the Spanish and English settlers. And this final look at the barracks will end our day here in Frederica in the Fort Frederica National Monument. And although this town was abandoned years and years ago after Britain and Spain signed the peace treaty, which caused the soldiers to leave, the town to fall economically, and the buildings and the streets to be deserted, we still need to watch where we're going. And not in our imagination, in real life, because of deer. There are deer roaming the streets of Frederica. And thank you so much for roaming these streets along with us as well. What did you think of the tour of this community that once lived here? What did you think of this national monument? Do you have a future trip planned to Fort Frederica, or you plan a trip to St. Simon's Island? And if you found this video helpful with your planning, please let us know. And if you have visited this national monument before, let us know. Please feel free to share your experiences. We always love it when you share your adventures with us and when you continue to join us off the couch. And we are off our couch each week, every Saturday, for a new adventure. And our next adventure, we are still here in St. Simon's Island, all over the island though, exploring and assembling a list of cool things to do here in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. So if you are planning to visit here to St. Simon's Island, subscribe, get off the couch with us once again, please. Also, join us monthly for our newsletter. Each month we provide travel tips, free travel downloads, added travel inspiration to help you, our fellow travelers, when you're planning a trip and preparing to be off the couch. The sign up link is on our website, offourcouch.com, as well as in the description and under the post tab right here on YouTube. So yeah, I'll be dropping info right here on YouTube as well. For now, as always, we end by thanking you for joining us on this adventure here in St. Simon's Island at Fort Frederica National Monument. Thank you for wandering Frederica and exploring all this archaeological site has to offer. And thank you so much for the likes, comments, all of the shares, and all of the feedback. All of you join us off the couch week after week is what makes these adventures and experiences possible, so thank you. Until next week, click on the video to see another one of our experiences. Thanks for watching.